Welcome to Groups This Week. As a church, we exist to help all people become fully devoted followers of Jesus. We believe doing life together is a crucial part of that journey. During this time, we're going to unpack and dig deeper into the sermon we heard this past week. Let's dive in as we continue to grow in our faith, knowledge, and love of Jesus together.
All right. Well, hey, welcome everyone.
Hey, everybody.
We're so glad to have you join us for this community group discussion video. I'm sitting here with Sam, and we've been in a vision series for the last number of weeks. We talked about the importance of Alpha to our church.
Culture of hospitality.
Absolutely. Yep. Last weekend we talked about our 50th, and we talked about God's faithfulness.
Can we just talk about how special that moment was as we gathered together?
It was amazing.
The evening, so many of you came out to that. That was so special to sing, to worship, to pray, and commit these next 50 days and 50 years to the Lord.
Yeah, so special across campuses, Rail City, here at Mariner, the evening. It was unbelievable. And then this week, we're talking about this theme of the next generation.
Yeah.
And I've heard you say this a lot, Sam, and even as we've been discussing and praying, we believe this. We want to have a bias towards the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
I know we believe this, but why should they believe it?
Yeah. Well, for a few reasons, right? And so we talked this last weekend about Deuteronomy chapter 6. And Moses is talking to a new generation of the people of God as they're just about to get into the promised land. So 40 years before, he said it to the previous generation. He shared the 10 Commandments. Now 40 years later, as they enter the promised land, he shares it again. And then he says, do whatever you need to do to remember this. And even, he says, impress it on the hearts of your children. Yeah. This idea of this faith that we embody as the people of God isn't just about us, but it's about those who come after us.
Right.
And it's our responsibility as followers of Jesus to impress the way of Jesus onto the hearts of our kids and our kids' kids. And maybe I'll also note that he's not only talking to parents with that command,
right,
but he's talking to the whole community of faith. He's saying, you impress this on the hearts of those who are coming up behind you. And so I think we have a responsibility to it. I also think that God is doing something very unique amongst the next generation in this time.
Yeah.
He's always moving, but there seems to be something incredibly special happening right now in the world. You and I were in London last year. We experienced it with our own eyes, right?
Yeah.
And saw the stats are backing it up now. They're calling it a quiet revival.
Yes.
Where for a long time it seemed like nothing was happening, that young people were all walking away from the church. But quietly over this last number of years, really since the pandemic, more and more young people, and especially young men, coming to faith, and to the point where we saw, we went to some worship nights in the UK where
it's packed
full of young people. Thousands coming and worshiping and on fire for Jesus. And then we're seeing it in our own local church as well.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, we're seeing this stirring amongst the next generation. We took some time at Mariner to pray over the Christian club leaders. So these are young people from our church, high school students, who are starting Christian clubs and launching youth alphas in their schools.
Yes. Yeah.
And so last week, one of the groups started in their school, and we were expecting, 12 to 15, 30, people to come out to these Christian clubs. And there was 95 students. This is peer-led.
Wow.
These young people leading their peers. And so we saw some videos of them leading their friends in prayer. And so
that's unprecedented.
That's abnormal. You did youth ministry a long time.
I was a youth pastor for 10 years.
Yeah.
I've been to some of those high school meetings, and it was always encouraging and beautiful and all those kind of things. But that number of students with that level of sincerity and desire and drive to just connect with God and lead their friends to faith.
Yeah.
Unprecedented.
And that's one school of 8 or 9 in the Tri-Cities where people from our church are leading these groups. And to be clear, this is not something that we're doing. We're simply trying to support and cheer on and make space for these young leaders.
Yeah.
But God is doing this. He is stirring in their hearts, and these young people are catching a vision. What could it look like to reach our schools? What could it look like if our friends really did come to faith in Jesus? There's this boldness and this courage, and we're just we'll buy as much pizza as you need.
Yeah, totally.
We'll do whatever we can from the sidelines to cheer you on. But so I think it's multifaceted why we would have a bias towards the next generation. Number one, it's our responsibility as followers of Jesus to impress the way of Jesus onto the hearts of the next generation.
Yeah.
Our church will naturally become 1 year older every single year. I will get older. You will get older. David Wood will get older, and the rest of us.
Yeah.
But we want to intentionally go after the young, Gen Alpha, Gen Z, and then God's also stirring. So I don't know. It's a few thoughts.
That's awesome. Many of our community groups are not Gen Z. Maybe you are some Gen Z listening to this. Like those who maybe their groups have older generations, how can they support?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, some great research was done by Barna a few years ago, asking the question of, okay, of all the people who remained in the faith from like adolescence, young adults, and on through their life. Because a lot of people have fallen away from the faith. We all know people who have lost the faith. But to those who stuck with it, who had a deep commitment to Jesus. And so Barna referred to these guys as resilient disciples.
Right.
So of resilient disciples, what was true of them? One of the big things that was true of this group of resilient disciples who stayed with the faith is that they had meaningful intergenerational relationships. And so this wasn't just with their mom and dad or their own biological grandparents, but this was this group of people, these young people who stayed in the faith. They had spiritual aunties and uncles in the faith, people who knew them and were known by them, who encouraged them, and often cases like would come out to their sports games and cheer them on, or knew that they were running these Christian clubs and were praying for them and sending them text messages and in some cases, going off to university, that there were people at their church back home who would send care packages and letters just saying, hey, we're praying for you, we believe in you.
Wow.
That made an exponential difference in whether or not these young people stayed in the faith, was these meaningful intergenerational relationships. And so if you are like a millennial, Gen X, boomer, you have an incredible opportunity, not just by serving in kids ministry, while that's awesome, and some of you may feel that call, or youth ministry or whatever, but just to pursue young people and just be a safe person for them. Not telling them how to be or what to think, or just being a safe space for them to process, cheering them on, believing in them, and that makes a massive difference.
Wow. So much good stuff there. Talking about really our call to impress, to share, to tell the story of God to the next generation, to cheer them on in their journey of faith. And to come alongside in all the various different ways that, as God leads you and speaks to you. And so, Sam.
And I think if we were to, all of us, if we were to think back on our own journey of faith, many of us have those kind of men and women in our lives who believed in us, made space for us. I know for us, Mark Francisco, our previous lead pastor, was a massive person who cheered us on, made space for us, believed in us. And now we, as a church, have an opportunity to be that for those coming up beneath us.
Sweet. So let's do that. Let's discuss today and talk about how we can be a church that supports and comes alongside the next generation. Enjoy your discussion. Thanks for tuning in.
God bless you guys.
We hope you enjoyed the teaching today. If you're wanting to follow along with our community group's discussion guide with your group, you can head to cachurch.ca/media, where you can find the discussion guide. Not only are there questions there related to the sermon, but there's also prayer prompts that relate to the passage or the topic that we were talking about, and practices that you can, on an individual level or a group level, begin integrating into your life to not only bring this knowledge into your mind, but to begin living it out.